Good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news, broadcasting live and then available on demand. We are available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, and of course YouTube and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Wednesday, September 21st, 2022, and we are live and then literally out of the closet and into the headlines. We have so many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in the LGBTQ plus community news, you will see it.
But I'm bummed. Happening out television network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio model of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ plus community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, including Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network. Our magazine is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader communities.
Well, let's begin by welcoming anchor John Hayden. He's a journalist for 27 years, and he now works for several outlets, including South Florida Gay News, as a reporter and community editor, covering politics, entertainment, and local events directly impacting the LGBTQ plus community. John's interviewed everyone from presidents to Oscar winners and been on more red carpets than he can count. Tonight, he can barely keep his eyes open because he's so tired after watching 10 days of royal funeral coverage. Welcome, John.
Oh, thank you so much. I was like, how long are they going to carry that carcass across the UK? Oh, my God. Now, let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro, an inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. Gregg is the author of 8 books, including his latest, Fear of Muses, an entertainment journalist whose celebrity interviews and music reviews run in a variety of regional LGBTQ plus and mainstream publications and websites. His movie review column, called Screensaver, that's S-A-V-O-R, can be found in South Florida Gay News. Hey, I work there. San Francisco's Bay Area reporter, RottenTomatoes.com. I am proud to call him not only my friend, but also my doppelganger. Good evening, Gregg.
It's a lot of work. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the Queer News for today, Wednesday, September 21st, 2022, which is National Chai Day, which is not to be confused with National Chai Day, which is something else altogether. Cheers.
Okay, National Chai Day.
Aren't the high holy days soon?
The Chai Holy Day.
Oh, the Chai.
All right, let's begin by queering up LGBTQ plus civil rights. Fox News' Tucker Carlson calls for violence against LGBTQ plus supportive teachers and doctors.
Phenomenon for what it is. They believe it's some kind of political movement, somehow related to the liberation struggle for trans rights, and therefore something you're not allowed to complain about or you're a bigot, and all the moms think you're bad. But it's not a liberation struggle. There is no liberation struggle. The battle for trans rights is long over. Trans people have rights. They can dress any way they like. And not only is that entirely legal, most Americans have no interest whatsoever in interfering with it at all. This is a fundamentally live and let live country, and it always has been. That's the deal we've always had. You do your thing, I'll do mine, and we'll both leave one another alone. And the overwhelming majority of the American population still favors that. Republican, Democrat, Independent, everybody's for that. But that's not what this is at all. These are not people who want to leave you alone or your kids alone. These are weirdos getting creepy with other people's children. That's exactly what it is. Say it. Say it. That's what it is.
Fox News host Tucker Carlson called for violence against LGBTQ+ and ally teachers on his show last night, saying, quote, "Neighborhood dads should mete out instant justice to anyone who even thought about sexualizing their kids," end quote. Carlson wasn't exactly sure what he was talking about. The news segment opened with him talking about sex education in schools, which apparently includes teaching about different kinds of families. But as the segment proceeded, he brought up anti-LGBTQ+ realtor Chaya Rychik, who goes by Libs of TikTok online. Rychik usually shares videos of LGBTQ+ teachers talking about non-sexual topics, like coming out to their classes and pronouns and things that aren't even sex education related. In another part of the segment, Carlson also discussed doctors who work with trans children claiming that they're castrating kids, even though gender-affirming surgery is not performed on trans minors. Carlson put all these things together along with child sex abuse and called it, quote, "sexualizing children," end quote, and said that they had the same results. He went on to say that mentioning LGBTQ+ people in the presence of children has the same long-term effects that child sex abuse does. He added, quote, "The reality of all of this behind the euphemism is horrifying. It's sexualizing children," end quote. It is incredibly disappointing, and I'm using as good a word as I can use with my good Christian values to suggest that discussing trans issues is the same as rape, as sexual violation, because that's what he did, and that's what he suggested in this interview, or in this segment last night.
Tucker Carlson no longer bothers to even connect the dots. He just goes from dot one to the finish and says, look, it's so clear. But in the end, it's not clear because no picture has been drawn out. It's just saying, this is bad. And by the way, and I'm never going to, I hate this sounding like I'm equivalating sexualizing children, but let's be honest. What was it? Toddlers and Tiaras, Honey, Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, right. Myriad other shows. Put children, but it's in a heterosexualization light. There's, it's okay for, men to look at 10 preteen, tween girls, and nobody says a word about that. Basically what they're saying is gay is the lesser, trans is to be feared. That's all this is saying, because we're not sexualizing kids, but there are a whole lot of shows out there that are sexualizing young women, and you can watch randomly any show on investigative discovery and you're going to find that.
That's right. And he uses the word creepy, and I'm just wondering if am I the only one that thinks it's creepy that a bowl of room temperature vanilla pudding incel such as Tucker Carlson is obsessed with sexualizing children. Sometimes I think his obsession with this maybe lies something, maybe he's more interested in that maybe he's hiding something about his own interest in sexualizing children, the he doth protest too much thing.
Well, he protests and his writers protest. Like I've said before, I have friends at all of the major cable channels, the news channels. Not only has primetime infiltrated daytime programming and how they spin news and facts, the writers that they hire for Hannity's show, for Tucker's show, they're the ones feeling, they're almost like the legal clerks at the Supreme Court. They're the ones that really write the opinion, even though Tucker Carlson's name goes on it. So they're hiring people to take them in this direction. I have a feeling the person who wrote this has probably never even met a trans person before.
It's interesting to me, to the observation that you started our segment with, which is he just moves from one issue to the other and doesn't even try to connect the dots. One of the things that I thought about at that moment is that's a good illustration of what Fox is so successful at. If you're going to be more educated as a viewer, be more educated as a viewer, the criticism that Fox News gets is Tucker Carlson is just going on one tirade after another without connecting any dots to come to whatever conclusion he wants to. But unfortunately, so are the vast majority of their viewers. They don't care about the connection of the dots. They hear the soundbite, and that's good enough for them. Trans is bad. I heard trans is bad, so therefore, let's have violence against the trans.
Yeah. Well, we move on and we queer up South Florida gay news. The issues related to bringing back banned books. With school boards and libraries across Florida acquiescing to angry mobs and eagerly over-complying with the Don't Say Gay law, students are being banned from learning LGBT history, stories, and much more. Now, Safe Schools South Florida and Stonewall National Museum and Archives are teaming up to make the books available for free. This is Banned Book Week, and in this week's SFGN, online now and on stands tomorrow, I look at the new partnership between Safe Schools South Florida and the Stonewall National Museum and Archives, which is making banned books available to students for free. Safe Schools donated $3,000 to the museum to start offering e-subscriptions to the books that are banned in Florida schools. Scott Galvin, a friend of the show and the leader of Safe Schools, says this project has taken on new urgency after the last couple of years since Republicans in Tallahassee have been punching down and targeting LGBTQ plus youth to score political points. He told me, quote, "There are so many threats against youth in today's society, LGBTQ plus youth in particular. We need to form partnerships with each other and push each other up and support each other," end quote. Now, while Fox News and their wannabe acolytes try to portray the materials as akin to putting pornography in schools, Stonewall's Robert Keston says that's simply not true, telling me, quote, "None of them talk about sex in the sense of physical relations between people. They talk about what's going on in people's hearts and minds, what's going on in the psychology of what makes them who they are," end quote. The e-subscriptions will be free and available on Stonewall's website very soon. For more on the attack on LGBTQ plus education, please read my story in SFGN, online now and on stands tomorrow. I went to this event where they did the check presentation and all that, and I was moved because someone is finally standing up for the next generation. I said it on this show last week. I said, if we don't stand up for them, we're jettisoning the next generation the same way some people want to jettison the T or the Q in today's environment. And they're not just banning anything with an LGBTQ character or theme. 1984, Animal House, Fahrenheit 451. Those are all also getting banned. I mean, and school boards have been waiting for this opportunity, and they've been salivating. And here this is a good story because we're finally punching back.
Well, this might be the happiest story I've heard this week, maybe even this month. Really, bravo to Safe Schools and to Stonewall, and lots of gratitude to Scott and to Robert. That's amazing.
You know, Scott Galvin anchored at Queer News Tonight last night, and we talked just briefly about the story, knowing it was coming from you as a lead at South Florida Gay News. It's interesting to me that Scott's overall impression is disappointment. His overall impression of what is happening to LGBT youth in our schools, especially here in South Florida, is disappointment of the reaction that is coming from LGBT itself. Miami-Dade County a year ago has a October LGBT History Month and votes 7-1 overwhelmingly to do it. Who, and I asked him, could you have possibly predicted 12 months ago that the exact same vote and the exact same issue would take place 12 months later and it would be 7-1 against?
Erased.
The world has changed dramatically, and we're losing. We are losing this fight. We are losing this battle. The question remains is, are we going to lose the war? And while I admire Scott Galvin as the executive director of Safe Schools, I admire this new executive director at Stonewall, Robert, to embrace and try to help. At the end of the day, it's not Scott's seat or it's not Robert's seat. It's not Safe Schools' seat, and it's not the Stonewall Museum seat that is going to win the war. It's the LGBTQ community that stands up. And so far, the troops, like Russians and the soldiers in Ukraine, they're not on the battlefield.
We definitely need to be advancing for sure. And now we're going to queer up the road to Stonewall. 1969 Stonewall Riots protester attacked by pro-trans mob at Pride event. A gay rights protester and co-founder of the first ever gay pride parade in New York City, Fred Sargent, was attacked by a pro-trans group at a Vermont Pride event for holding an anti-woke sign that dismissed transgenderism. Sargent, who was 74, was attacked at the 39th Burlington Pride Parade in Vermont for holding a sign which showed a red line passing through the phrases woman face and blackface. He is against the recent gender ideology movement, which he believes is homophobic and exclusive. After the Pride Parade, Sargent wrote a Facebook post saying, quote, "So, I went to Pride to protest their misogyny, homophobia, exclusionary policies, and divisiveness. I was met by screaming, multiple assaults, ageist comments, shoving, slaps to the back of my head, pouring coffee on me, and repeated attempts to steal my signs. The mob pushed me to the ground as the parade ended, further injuring me," end quote. He also posted a photo of his controversial sign saying, quote, "They stole or damaged more than $550 worth of my property. This is the sign that the young trans rainbow brown shirts and dresses went absolutely nuts over." Sargent has been an advocate for gay rights since he participated in the 6-day Stonewall Riots of 1969 and co-led the first Pride Parade in New York City known as the Christopher Street Liberation Day March. You know, there's a part of me that wants to sort of chalk up this to age, to saying that this is somebody who's in his 70s, and he's been through this, but on the other hand, he's also part of this gender critical movement on social media. So it's not like it's a surprise that this is where he's coming from. He's been an advocate of this for a long time. So in a way, he almost should have been prepared, because he's going to this parade where he knows he's going to be in a mixed setting.
But when are you ever prepared to be physically touched?
Well, he shouldn't have been. That's the thing. There's a line that's being drawn. Why are they assaulting him? Why can't they just yell at each other? I mean, why can't they just use words?
Yeah, I don't understand his point or position. I mean, I get it. I get what he's saying. I don't understand the view. Maybe it's because I am a generation behind him or something like that. And no, we should never physically assault people in our parades, be it, you know, even if they're the hateful bitches, you know, that run up and down Wilton Drive with their Trump flags. But for him to just assume that we haven't progressed and we're not a changing movement. Like you always say, like we got to 2015 and we got marriage and we sort of stopped. Well, it seems like he got to 1969, 1971, and it was like, okay, I'm good, I'm done. We're a growing movement, we're a fluid movement, and we have to be ready to accept more people in and not shut those doors and keep them out, because we need every ally we can get, except for you. Time to go to bed.
You know, I completely agree. I agree with the observation that his viewpoint is out of touch. I completely agree with that. I have learned a lot about the trans movement in America and worldwide, special needs, what they endure, how they go through it, how they are uniquely discriminated against. But that does not justify in any way the actions that we just watched at Burlington Pride, because he has the right to say that. He has the right to feel that way. It's interesting to me that he is an advocate in our community, and while he might be caught frozen in time, he still has the right to be caught frozen in time. The most distressing issue in this story about what happened in Burlington, Vermont, was not that we are fighting the Proud Boys, but we are fighting ourselves.
Yes.
And when that happened, you remember the old game, or the old movie War Games? Move us to DEFCON 3. That's what happened here. We moved from DEFCON 5 to DEFCON 3 because we are beginning to turn on ourselves over these issues. And we can't. Because of the diversity in the community, if we turn on ourselves, it for sure, in a marginalized minority community, will lead to self-destruction.
Yeah, we're cannibalizing.
We're cannibalizing
really bad.
ourselves. And that's what this moment does. This is a person, thank you very much for what you did in 1969. It doesn't give you exclusive rights to do or express anything else other than that you have the right to do it. but it didn't make any difference that he was an advocate in our community. The moment you touched him, and the moment you touched his property, what he makes the point of, I spent $550. Okay, all right, but nobody has the right to damage his property.
Wait, the cost is negligible. It's
And
the physical.
it's not a question of the cost. How are we any better than them? How were you protesting in Burlington and protesting against him any better than the Proud Boys? I don't see any difference. And when I express that, I know there's going to be a lot of rejection in the gay community, but we can't want what we want and then point our fingers at those that don't give us what we want. And that's what this story is really all about. It's about us. It's not about trans. It's about us. And our commitment to speech and the thinking process and the discussion process. It's all about us. Next, we are going to queer up LGBTQ plus civil rights. The HRC has selected Kelley Robinson as the first Black queer woman to lead civil rights and this civil rights organization.
Before. I believe that we can make big generational change happen right now. And I believe that we can do it together. I'm Kelley Robinson, and I'm the new president of the Human Rights Campaign. It's not lost on me that I literally and figuratively am not supposed to be here. I wouldn't be standing here today without the work of organizations like this to fight for marriage equality. Yes, because it allowed me and my partner to get married, but also because it allowed us to get the benefits, to see each other in the hospital when we're sick, to start to build the family of our dreams with our child, to be able to purchase a home together. It's clear to me that I wouldn't be here today without people like Bayard Rustin, who fought for workers' rights and voting rights, and Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, that knew that marching in the streets mattered, but being willing to disrupt to ensure that our voices are heard was just as important. By standing here today, I am making a promise and commitment to carry this work forward, to ensure that if you've ever not seen yourself in this movement, you know that in this time we are here for you. I'm here for every trans kid that's been kicked out of a sports program. I'm here for every person that has been attacked or criminalized just for being who they are in their full expression of their gender identity. I'm here for every person that lives at the intersection of our world. Maybe you are queer and Black like me. Maybe you are differently abled. Maybe you live in a rural area. I'm here for all of us. And this next chapter of HRC, this next chapter of the Human Rights Campaign is about getting to freedom and liberation without any exceptions.
Well, Robinson is a veteran organizer in progressive politics who has worked with the Planned Parenthood Action Fund for 3 years, and as the executive director. Robinson is the latest Black woman and the queer person elected to lead progressive organizations that were historically led by white people, including the election of LaFonso Butler at Emily's List, Alexis McGill Johnson at Planned Parenthood, and Fatima Goss Graves at the National Women's Law Center. In an interview with the 19th magazine, Robinson said that her many identities as Black queer, a woman, a mother, and as a wife shape how she will approach the new responsibility. She said, quote, "My identities always remind me of that responsibility and help me to open the door to others. Just my being here is revolutionary," end quote. Robinson continued by saying, quote, "I also have a lot of privilege. I show up in the world as a cisgender woman. I have to make sure I'm creating space for others who identify I don't hold, to make sure that they see that this movement for LGBTQ people is a space where all of us are seen, where all of us are celebrated, and we're going to fight like hell to make sure all of us have the freedoms we deserve," end quote. HRC has gone through a couple of turbulent years, and I'm not talking about the pandemic. So this appointment of Robinson is good news. If for no other reason, it's stability of good news. I think the message that it sends is loud and clear. First and foremost, that a woman needs to be in charge. And second, a woman of color needs to be in charge to lead what frequently in LGBT advocacy is older white men.
Well, and this should go a long way in changing the reputation that HRC has, and that the letters stand for helping rich Caucasians. So this will certainly go a long way in that.
I think this is great that she is there. I just hope that she helps build the grassroots infrastructure, because we need, like when we go to the HRC meetings here or in Austin, Texas, or wherever, we need to be able to see more views represented rather than just, I don't know, 3 old, mostly bald white guys. Mostly. Enjoy it while it lasts. But am I getting my scandals confused? But she replaces a black man.
Yes, Alfonso.
Who accused their organization of racism. Yeah. So, it's more about the group's actions going forward, because otherwise you're just sort of not helping resolve the problems that brought us to this point in the first place.
Right. Well, she's been in place for 24 hours. How's she doing so far?
You know what? I don't like to make snap judgments, so I'll wait until tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. That's good.
That's very gay white. Okay.
Well, we move on and we queer up the USA view. LGBTQ plus rights organizations has a meltdown as director resigns, accusing the board of white supremacy. Jeremy LeMaster, the now former executive director of Free State Justice in Maryland, published an article on the organization's website announcing his resignation. He accused the group's board of directors of motivating white supremacist culture. LeMaster has accused the 7-member board of repeatedly refusing to conduct its core activities, failing to meet its financial responsibilities, and ignoring the group's dedication to low-income LGBTQ clients. LeMaster wrote, quote, "They have worked to consolidate power and amend the board handbook in secret to lower the minimum number of board members required to ensure that our policy positions prioritize relationships with legislators and not the best interests of our client community," end quote. LeMaster said he repeatedly told the board about his concerns and accused the board of trying to buy his silence with a severance pay package upon resigning. LeMaster also expressed his fear of speaking out against a, quote, "concentrated small group of white affluent professionals," end quote. Though he agreed that, as executive director, he should take the blame for their poor leadership, he also mentioned that his role in the organization was impossible to perform, considering the board's actions. Former Free State Justice Education and Outreach Director Ezra Halstead has called LeMaster's claims 100% false. Halstead says, quote, "The reality is that Jeremy has single-handedly destroyed the organization on their own," end quote. Again, it gets back to when we start to eat each other, when we eat our own young. And this is a Maryland group that's been around for a while. The thing is, there's not a lot being written about this. I tried to look for a little bit more beyond this and saying he destroyed the thing and they're being white supremacists. I haven't seen an article yet that really backs up a lot of this claim. So in the spirit of the last story, I would like to reserve a final judgment, but my God, I think the overriding story or the theme to this show so far has been, we need to stick together. We need to get our act together. If we start cannibalizing ourselves, they're going to come in and pick up the carcass.
Well, and this LeMaster is a transplant to Baltimore. He's been there a few years, and there's a very interesting 2018 Washington Blade interview with him at the time when he was already like a rabble-rouser. He had organized a queer takeover at a John Waters exhibit at a museum in Baltimore. So he has a history of this. He likes to stir things up. So it's not really surprising that he spoke up about something that he personally considered to be wrong. He's that kind of, and he's young, and he's that kind of person that when he sees something, he's either going to organize a takeover or he's going to speak up about it.
You know, I did the reference on the movie War Games. Now we move to DEFCON 2. It's interesting to me of the nature of this story. First off, it's very distressing to me. You make an excellent observation in terms of the amount of information that is out there. LGBTQ news is very fluid at best. It depends on the perspective, the dedication to professionalism, the ability to talk about the issue. the ability to investigate the issue and have the resources to do it. LGBT does not generally have a particularly good history across the board of that. And I suspect one of the reasons why you see very little written about Free State and what is going on in Maryland. The other observation that I would make about this story is that we're in a situation where I think it's becoming, when we get gay marriage and we have every network and every business and every commercial in the world in June talking about pride and being in our parades, everything is fine. When a Governor Ron DeSantis and a Governor Bud Abbott come in and stress us and stress us and stress us, that's when we find out how good of a community we are. That's what we're beginning to find out. The stress test that is going on LGBT, we're beginning to see the cracks. And that story that LGBT journalists and the press is going to continue to cover and talk about and see where it goes. One thing I think is really becoming initially crystal clear. We don't know where this is going, but we can see what is happening. And what we are seeing is that when everything is great in LGBT, we're happy. But at the end of the day, if it's not what we want, we're going to turn on you. And that means we're going to turn on the gay guy on the lesbian on the gay guy, the white gay guy on the black gay guy, on trans, and the fingers of the table that we sit around here begin to point in all kinds of directions. And I don't think we were as clear that we would do what we watch in the broad community. But after all, we're finding out we're human.
And do you think that DeSantis and Abbott are using that as against us?
There's no question about it.
As
Fox News does what they do because they know it's successful. DeSantis's commercials in Florida about Chris supports Nancy Pelosi 100% of the time, and he wants to change our boys into girls. That's ridiculous. But he knows exactly what he's doing because he's poking that culture war. And in many respects, because we're being stressed over it, we're going right along with it.
Oh boy. All right, well now we're going to queer up business. Financial crisis as PayPal and Venmo reject anti-trans hate group Gays Against Groomers.
Well, thanks for having me. Last night at about 2 in the morning, I received an email from PayPal and then Venmo a few minutes later saying that they basically permanently banned our accounts. We've never gotten a violation before. They said that we violated, though, their user agreements, which we're not sure what in the agreement we violated. There was no really detailed message to that, just the notification that we have been banned. And yeah, I mean, we're just an organization that is comprised completely of gay people. We even have a few trans people within our organization, just trying to fight this evil that is happening in the name of LGBTQIA, you know, the whole alphabet mafia now. And we're just trying to stand up against it, and we're being punished for that. So it's, you know, we knew this would happen, but it's always a bit shocking.
So your position is just leave the kids out. You know, do your thing. Don't sexualize children, don't mutilate children. That seems like a very mainstream position. Who at PayPal and Venmo, do you know, is in favor of sexualizing and mutilating children? Do you have any sense?
I personally, yeah, I mean, that's clearly the position that they're taking now. They're defending pedophiles and child predators and the entire ideology that is transitioning children and mutilating their bodies and using them as sex objects. That's the position, that's the side that they want to stand with. So, you know, we're happy to have enemies like this, but it's just really sad. And, you know, they say that they took our account down for discriminatory behavior.
Two payment processing giants, PayPal and Venmo, have banned the group named Gays Against Groomers from using their system to receive funds from purchases on the hate group's website. A spokesperson for PayPal has confirmed that the account no longer has access to its service. For months, Chaya Raichik, who runs a Twitter account named Libs of TikTok, which calls itself Gays Against Groomers, has been engaging in strategies that amount to a stochastic terror campaign, specifically against transgender people. Gays Against Groomers founder Jamie Michelle, who identifies as gay, is a political operative with employment ties to a Florida-based right-wing political outfit called X Strategies. The company's co-founder is proud MAGA Republican Alex Bruesewitz. In early September, Gays Against Groomers used the name of clinical instructor at Harvard Law School's Cyber Law Clinic and trans activist Alejandra Caraballo to sell anti-trans merchandise, some of which implied LGBTQ plus people as pedophiles who collect or hoard child pornography. As per the advocate, Apple Pay and Stripe are still accessible to Gays Against Groomers for merchandise and donation transactions. While Apple did not share any comment, Stripe's spokesperson has declined to comment on the company's intentions to suspend its relationship with the hate group. It's really, so that is the new holy trinity of hate. This Chaya Raichik, this Jamie Michelle, and this Palm Beach, interestingly enough, based Alex Bruesewitz. And we talked about this the first time we covered Jamie Michelle. We talked about that she works for this right-wing PR company called X Strategies. So she's just a mouthpiece for this Bruesewitz.
But I love the way that they frame it. Gays against groomers. Like, because that way if you're against them, then it sounds like you're pro-groomer. Even though what they're actually trying to do has nothing to do with grooming, however form that exists. It is part of a broader coalition to demonize without putting any real proof or real backing up there. And that's okay. And that goes for Republicans, Democrats, Independents. Most people don't read more beyond a headline and maybe a little line in the metadata. But so they know they don't have to put a lot of truth or facts or even make up facts to back this up. Just a little bit goes a long way.
And it's called false premise. Completely. We watched, this was a master class, a college master class, that exchange between her and Tucker Carlson of creating false premise to sell a concept that you want to sell, which is not true. False premise. What he did, he's the master of it. He is way better at it than she is, at Gays Against Groomers. What he says is, who is possibly for sexualizing children? No one. No one. Anyone? No one. So what he does is he takes that conceptual idea of truth to apply it to now Venmo and the other finance platform and says, so therefore his question is, who at Venmo wants to sexualize children? He makes a false premise link. And everybody at Fox News that's listening to that goes, Venmo wants to sexualize children. Military intelligence. It's the double-speak lie that historically, through all of history, has gone on. And Tucker Carlson is a master at it, and Jamie Mitchell is becoming a master at it also. They incorporate in her answer the alphabet mafia. Who is the alphabet mafia? First off, she is creating a dog whistle. Blow dog whistle, pay attention. Alphabet, LGBTQ plus. IA, could go on. It's the alphabet mafia. Alphabet is a neutral phrase. Mafia is a bad phrase because it is a criminal family. The letters of LGBTQ are now a mafia criminal family.
Well, it's a PR strategy.
It's a PR strategy completely. And you know where we're watching the master of this? We're watching it at Tucker Carlson, but let me point out the greatest example for us here in Florida that we've seen in 2022. The parental rights bill to prevent discussing sex to kindergartners. Could you please show me a single example where that happened? No, that doesn't matter. We're still protecting parents' rights. Who does that? Governor Ron DeSantis. We are watching an orchestration that the gay community is not keeping up with. We're getting our hat handed to us and our asses kicked because we're not paying attention to this false premise sales campaign that is convincing a number of people. That's what's happening.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m., with more than 30,000 watching every week.
Hi, my name is Misty Eyes, and I'm the Director of Transgender Services, Women's Services, and Education Training at SunServe. And Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ+ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ+ evening news show. If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ+ news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ+ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ+ stories in motion and sound. And that is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ+ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including John Hayden and Gregg Shapiro, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. And on behalf of all of us here at Queer News Tonight, we wish you
good night.
Good night, everyone.
LGBTQ+ news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ